Denver Snuffer blog post, May 19th, 2017. Trinitarian Impediment. The doctrine of the Trinity, which was settled, if not created, in the Council of Nicaea, is an impediment, and not an advantage, to knowing God. If life eternal is to know God, as John declared, see John 17:3, then of what value is a doctrine that makes God incomprehensible? Even theologian James R. White, the former Christian Research Institute, makes damning admissions as he labors to defend the Nicene Creed. See, What Really Happened at Nicaea, CRI Statement DN-206. He explains that every time they came up with a statement that was limited solely to biblical terms, it was unclear. They invented and used new terminology because, quote, they needed to use a term that could not be misunderstood, end quote, meaning that they had to go outside the Scriptures because the Scriptures failed to say what they wanted to say. He elaborates that, quote, they sought to clarify biblical truth, end quote. He does not want to admit their extra-biblical creed was a departure and struggles to claim the council was only accomplishing a limited and clarifying task. What if instead of debating and focusing on substance or the material of which God is composed, the debate did confine itself solely to biblical terms? Nicene terminology debated the terms of homoousios and homoousios to resolve their extra-biblical debate. The heteroousios term was easily defeated. These terms mean homoousios of the same identical substance, homoousios of similar substance, and heteroousios of a different substance. Why focus on substance at all? What in the New Testament makes that a Christian concern? The only time substance enters into the picture is when a very physical Jesus Christ accomplishes very physical acts during his ministry. Touching the eyes and healing, John 9:6. Breaking apart loaves of bread, Matthew 14:19. Handling a bowl, water, towel, and touching feet, John 13:5. Or when he was resurrected, allowing the disciples to handle his physical body to confirm it was him, Luke 24:39. These physical descriptions of a being composed of material substance like us are in the Bible precisely to inform us of Christ's physical nature. All the biblical texts were discarded because they were insufficient to describe the kind of substance the theologians wanted to adopt. The quest for singular and unknowable substance for God was because of the Christian embarrassment at their loss of monotheism. If Christ and the Father were different in any way from one another, then the monotheistic tradition of apostate Judaism would be lost. Earliest Judaism had a defined council, with a Father who presided, a divine Son, and angelic hosts. Their theology changed dramatically during the Second Temple period, which has been regarded by many scholars as a time of Jewish apostasy. Like so many other false notions, however, this one is also solved by the Bible. Christ declared plainly how the Father and the Son were one. Neither pray I for these alone, but for them also which shall believe on me through their word, that they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. And the glory which thou gavest me, I have given them, that they may be one, even as we are one, I in them, and thou in me, that they may be made perfect in one, and that the world may know that thou hast sent me, and hast loved them as thou hast loved me. John 17:20-23. The disciples were not of identical substance. Peter was separate from John, who were both different beings than Andrew, yet they were to be one in the same way the Son and the Father are one, or, in other words, the unity of the Godhead is not clarified by a discussion on substance and is utterly confused by making them identical substance so as to avoid polytheism. The Godhead is one because they are united in purpose, accomplishing the same work jointly, and abiding by the same identical principles of truth and righteousness. In that way, men can likewise become godly by uniting in God's purpose, working jointly to save the souls of men, and abiding the same standards of truth and righteousness. Trinitarian theology is not an advantage to Christian orthodoxy. It is an impediment to understanding and knowing God. It alienates you from the Godhead, with whom you are intended to become one. And above all else, even the defenders of Trinitarianism admit it is extra-biblical and cannot be proven if the discussion is limited solely to the Bible. Life eternal is to know Jesus Christ and his Father who sent him. You cannot know an unknowable God. Trinitarianism was defended by Athanasius at Nicaea and advocated by him afterwards. He developed a follow-on creed to help further explain what was done to the Orthodox God at Nicaea. Here is what he claimed they accomplished with their creedal explanation of God. Quote, "The Father incomprehensible, the Son incomprehensible, and the Holy Spirit incomprehensible, as also there are not three incomprehensible, but one uncreated and one incomprehensible." End quote. The Orthodox Christian God is one great incomprehensible and unknowable being who cannot be defined if you limit the discussion solely to the Bible. If you are an Orthodox Christian, that ought to trouble you. You have become like the Samaritans whom Christ told worshipped, quote, "they know not what," end quote, John 4:22, or the pagans Paul addressed on Mars Hill who did not know what or who they worshipped, Acts 17:22-23. False traditions cannot save you, however sincerely you may hold them. Knowing God, however, is life eternal.